last week on the Nicoletti Show. Let's welcome him on the show. Tyler, I love it, man. Love seeing you.
If you hear someone that uses REI SIF, you think of that person differently than if you hear, they're using like Call Tools or Ready Mode or any other tool in the real estate industry. And I think that's something really powerful about what my team and what the community has built to create not only just the product, but the culture around the type of business that runs and operates off of SIFT.
By the way, that's the word that I would say like that best describes REI SIFT is the culture.
I always like to say, and being naive is the bane of demise in business for CEOs. The most important thing for you to be able to do is to sit down and truly be honest with yourself and the reason why you're doing certain activities.
Yeah, you speak my language, man.
Your business has an immune system, and a lot of times what we like to do is inject a bunch of vitamin C, aka cash, into our problems, but that only lasts so long.
In order to do a niche down, you really have to narrow your process and choose an initial direction.
I see this so often with like new investors trying to get deals because they're stressed out about having to close a deal. And so they make bad business decisions because of these stressors instead of doing the thing that's actually the right thing to fix the problem.
What is the only list you can't buy?
Oh yeah, the one that you're creating.
And that's what I love about what you've integrated with REI SIFT is being able to do the CRM stuff, but also the marketing, but then having all these investors do the niche, the deep prospecting and really honing in on that and being able to do their own marketing the way they want without having to integrate it with different programs and stuff.
The only thing that I'm going to leave you guys with is go be comfortable being alone in your thoughts.
I like that one. Thanks for coming on again, man. Thanks
for inviting me, man.
Always love watching the recaps from last week on the show. I love Tyler. I love what he's doing with REI SIFT. And if you missed any of that episode with Tyler, you got to go back, check it out, scan the QR code. If you scan the QR code, you'll find all the different links on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. You'll find all the places you can find the show and all the guests that have been on the show. And of course, all the different content on probates, quiet titles, partitions, all of it. But you'll find all the guests. All you got to do is just scan that QR code. I am really excited to have my guests on tonight on the show. It's going to be another banger on the Nicoletti Show. Two guests that have been crushing it all over the country, doing real estate deals all across America. And we're going to dive in on their journey, doing 50 deals in 50 states in 50 days. And we're going to crush it and dive in on what their findings are the second time around. So I want everybody to get your pens out, get your papers out, take lots of notes because you can learn so much from RJ and Cassie. So many people I know follow them on social media, and they're a wealth of knowledge when diving into real estate deals, getting comfortable talking to sellers and being able to do deals and just crushing it. So I'm excited. I'm ready to go. We're ready to rock and roll. So we're live and let's rock this thing. Hey everybody, my name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their communities that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate, and always bring in the best in the business, in the real estate game, in the real estate adjacent game, people that are doing deals all across the country, people that are specializing in deals in different niches, whether it's land, whether it's commercial. We're focusing on people that can drive that value home, bring value to you, whether it's in the entrepreneurship, the mindset world, or even people that have had great success stories on their journey and journeys that they're continually on how you can take your company to the next level. I am excited to dive in on Cassie and RJ tonight. We're going to get to them in just a second, but I want to I tried doing it last week, and it just, when you get back into the show, get back into the groove of something, you just like fly by everything. And I completely missed my opening thoughts of the show. And I did final words, final thoughts, but I didn't do it. And this week, I really want to do this because what a lot of people don't know is this summer, I actually took a lot of time to do training with my team. And I was traveling a lot in April and May and June, but I knew that speaking season and traveling season was going to come up in September, August, September. And I knew I had to go back really hard in my business, break down the things that were keeping us from growing, and really hone in on training the team. Because over the summer, the team grew 2 to 3 people. And so I knew that I had time to implement this now before I was away from the firm. So this summer, focused on training. And I'm going to tell you this: if you aren't taking the time to really, day by day, week by week, hammer down the instruction, hammer down the things that you really need to explain to your employees on how to do things, you're doing harm to your business and you're not going to scale the way you want. This is very important because for me in my business, by taking the time day by day, it's a lot of work. By taking the time day by day and saying, this is what you have to do, this is the way we do it, reading the emails that get sent out. If it's something's not right, you address it right away. It's addressing things in the present and all the little things that you can point out right away that add up to the training. Because some people do week by week, every 2 weeks. I'm sure RJ and Cassie, they do training weekly, or maybe it's monthly. I'm sure they'll talk about that. But I know there's a lot of people doing deals out there and a lot of people want to scale. You have to train your team. I do. And I train them on responding to people, calling back people, notating things in the file. Extremely important. So I just wanted to say that because I know it's going to be helpful for somebody out there. And I know that it's been helpful for my business, and I'd like to see it be helpful for yours. So I hope that's helpful. And without further ado, we are going to welcome RJ Bates and Cassi DeHaas on the show. Let's go, guys. How's everybody doing?
Dude, we're on the Nicoletti Show.
Right?
I
How
love
could
it.
it get better?
Forget A&E. Mama, we made it. All right?
You guys are too much.
I love it. We're doing great.
I'm good.
How are you doing tonight, Al?
It's crazy. The story of how I actually officially met you two, which was down in West Palm Beach. I remember you guys were speaking. I was doing a little panel, and I don't think RJ or Cassie knew. I don't know. It sounded like RJ knew who I was, but I remember walking, and RJ was like, "There he is," and I'm thinking, oh my God, RJ knows who I am. And then from there, it was done. We connected.
Yes, it's funny, man.
Yeah.
That West Palm Beach event, we've been a couple of times now. We got to meet you. We met several people from that event. It's been one of the best events that we've ever been to. And I just want to say, your opening thoughts were so spot on, man. I appreciate you for saying that, because that is literally something that we were living today. I watched Cassie 3 times today stop our team to coach them in the moment. So awesome opening thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually was like, I couldn't wait. Like the whole time I was like, oh, I can't talk yet. Like I wanted to chime in so badly because we are really like, we do like to have like, sometimes actually RJ, will be like, you did a lot of like the organic, in the moment training with the team today. And like, it felt like it was a lot today. And I'm like, I know, so sometimes we're a little too much on that. So we do go through phases where like, I try to, not be a helicopter mom, if you will, with our team. But sometimes it's just mandatory through some of those things like, today, for example, it was a lot of like, why aren't we working this process and why aren't we having this communication? Like you guys have been trained to do this, like you have formed some bad habits. So sometimes it's just like a recalibration. And then sometimes, yeah, we do have like, we go through phases sometimes where it's like we'll do morning and evening wrap ups. And then we go through phases where we phase that out for, like 6 weeks because it's just too much, too nitty gritty, too repetitive. So we do actually daily, weekly, and monthly sometimes trainings. And then like we kind of go through like a big, like cycles of that, like every quarter, I would say. So excellent advice. And like, yeah, I mean, RJ usually like kind of steps in and does like, himself, like some leadership training. he functions a little bit more in the visionary and less of the nitty gritty, tedious kind of stuff sometimes. So, but then sometimes he even hops in and gets his
Oh, I'd love to hear
fingernails dirty, if
RJ
you
get
will.
like that, like a drill sergeant. Everybody get down.
Yeah. Oh, we both have those tendencies.
But Cassie, you're right about the why didn't this get done? We've been through this before. Same thing, right? That's one of those things that if you don't address it, it's going to keep happening. So I'm glad that resonated with you guys. And
I call it the chiropractic adjustment.
that's a good one. Haven't heard one like a great analogy for training. Absolutely. Well, tell me, when we had the onboarding call, I thought this was great. I'm thinking, what's going on? What's happening? And you guys were like, we just completed the second go around of 50 deals in 50 states in 50 days. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to hear, how did this go? What happened? I want to break down so many different things on your journey. But to start, how was that whole journey the second go around?
So it's funny, the first go around 2020, it was all SMS texting, which now SMS texting is really, you can't really do it anymore because of the regulations. And so this go around, we had a lot of inbound leads from Lead Zolo, Speed to Lead. Also, we got quite a few leads from my TikTok and Instagram. Funny enough, people watch my reels of me talking to other sellers. And they say, oh, well, if you'll buy his house, maybe you'll buy my house. So we found that to be interesting. Then we also had our cold calling. I think first and foremost, the biggest difference between 2020 and 2023 was the ability for us to function on a day-to-day without feeling so beat down at the end. The outbound marketing, 8 hours, 9 hours a day was exhausting for me in 2020. I said this on another podcast, and I'll say it again. If you go look at day 1 of 2020 and you watch day 50 of 2020, I looked like I had 4 years of being the president of the United States. Like, I aged so much because I was just so exhausted between, being live 8 hours a day, but also just the outbound. All of those reels you've seen. Hello, this is RJ.
Yeah.
How'd you get my information? All this, getting cussed out and all of that. We only had 2 calls like that through the entire 50 days. So that was a huge difference. And then also we incorporated Cassie in this a lot more, where she came and instead of giving me a 10-minute break, she was giving me 30, 45 hour-long breaks. She was doing acquisitions as well as managing the transaction coordination and the dispo team. So I thought that was a huge difference just on like the systems part of it, but also just kind of the morale standpoint for us. That's what stood out the most for me.
Cassie, what stood out for you?
I would say, for me, there was huge difference in the fact that we had more qualified people to support us on our team. When we did the original 50-50-50, honest to goodness, we didn't know as much about what to expect going into it. Whereas it helped us refine a lot of our processes from start to finish. And I'll just be honest, that first 50-50-50 was an entire beatdown, because when RJ and I originally went into it, he thought he was going to go ahead and dispo the deals live. And I told him, I told him the whole thing was crazy, but we'd figure it out. It's not the first or last time we've done anything crazy, right? So, it became this thing where it was like the transaction coordination and the disposition was an absolute, it was a beatdown. He talks about when that was over, I literally told him I want to go into hibernation for 2 weeks to recover. Somebody put me in a cryo chamber, right? So it was a beatdown the first time. Now I will say this, on the second one, as interesting as I can say, it has created ways for us to refine some of our processes and systems. And there was a lot of discovery through it. it was less so, and it was still pretty tiring from the contract to close part of it, for me, just because I was jumping a lot, right? I was jumping from roles to roles to roles. So by the time we revive this, we'll be even better on like the production side, the time blocking side. I think our team will be a little bit better prepared as far as like our transaction coordinator, because as much as we tried to warn them, they didn't experience it the first time. So they were ready for the floodgates, as far as the timing of every single thing, because it changes it when you're doing it live. You know what I'm saying?
Let me interject there for a second. I think it's important to understand, on a day-to-day basis, Cassie and I do not do acquisitions. So when we told our team that we were going to do another 50-day challenge, they had never seen me do 8 hours of acquisitions. So they didn't really understand that wave of deals that was going to come. That was a wake-up call for them, I would say.
Interesting. Keep going, Cassie.
I mean, yeah, there was a lot of like new discovery. I mean, I think that that's like the important thing. Like when you're a nationwide company like we are, no matter what, like I will say this, like the acquisitions, obviously RJ already covered that. It was a breath of fresh air to do in this challenge with the inbound leads, much less the type of inbound leads we were getting. And so I will also say this because it's vitally important. Even though we had been using Investor Lift for quite some time prior to doing the second round, we discovered things throughout. We've changed a lot of processes and how we use our Investor Lift and made it very much like we do our data. We've honed in those processes and how we use it and become more effective, more efficient with our systems and tools that we use. And it gives us more time to focus on the deal, focus on the language, be in front of the right people. And we've learned a lot of that on the disposition side, even through this 50-50-50 2.0. And I will say that in ways like that was such a breath of fresh air as well on the disposition side, because I mean, to tell you, RJ and I bootstrapped this business from day one, but through the first 50-50-50, I feel like we learned how much we were bootstrapping. And then the second 50-50-50, how many 50s did I say? There's so many 50s. And we learned so much about, like, I felt like we really got to focus on the changes in the markets, what buyers and sellers are really, really wanting to date. We got to tweak our processes that we were already using. And I think the beautiful thing and why we like to do this is because it does that for our business, but it also puts it out there for our followers, for our community. It is a form of free education. It is a form of like being transparent and letting people know, like, we experience the same things that they do. What are we doing that's working? And so I feel like this one was more fun, even though I would say there was a few weeks in there, RJ can attest this, I was like, I'm tired. I'm tired. Why didn't we schedule more breaks? Why don't we time block this better? So we're just two people out here running a business and learning every day, just like everybody else. And we're just really fortunate to have people that, follow our journey and that we get to impact in positive ways by doing stuff like this. But really, I love getting that market knowledge by like going in hard, putting that camera in front of you, man, that makes you go in hard on what it is you're doing, because you're not going to fall on your face. You don't get to have breaks. And RJ's like a beast about it. I'm like, we can't just change the schedule for like, he's like, no, we already committed to this. I'm like, huh, okay, here we go.
Yeah,
4 months.
It almost just put you guys in an uncomfortable position, which allowed you to learn about yourself even more. But I feel like from the first time, the way you're explaining it, it was, you didn't know how disorganized you would be or how disorganized the business would be, and you learned about the chaos moments, right? And so where did you lack? What were the problems? And then you implement it the second go around, you're like, whoa, we're not doing that again. You're learning, you're wise. We're not doing that again. We're going to do all these things, like you said, time blocking and leveraging Cassie's skill sets again, more than before. And it just seems like by implementing and leveraging more of the systems and processes, you had a better experience. RJ enjoyed it more. You enjoyed it more. But also, like you said, it sounds like a boot camp, right? So by doing it, it forces it puts your brain into a completely different gear that you have to figure things out as you go on and think on your feet, and you start learning about your team more. Who's going to step up? Who's not stepping up? So I love this whole experience because I don't think people do it enough. I've never heard about it before, except when you guys talked about it at Palm Beach. But it's great. What did you find with leads? Like the second go around from 2020 to 2023, completely different market, different buyer, different buy box and everything. Which leads were really hitting hard in the second go around?
So funny enough, I got some really detailed KPIs on this. Lead Zolo.
Another thing we did
Right.
better this
So
time.
the majority of our contracts came from Lead Zolo, which if you don't know what Lead Zolo is, it's YouTube leads. So they're running an ad on YouTube, and then you go to their website, they fill it out, and then within 13 seconds of them filling out the form, it comes to you as a lead, like they went to your own website. So if you've seen any of my videos, that's why I'm saying it. Hey, you came to my website, but it's really Lead Zolo's. So after the challenge, Lead Zolo said, can you send us a spreadsheet of all of your leads that you sent contracts on and the ones that got signed? And so the ones that performed the best were the leads that were essentially tired landlords with vacant properties that wanted to sell within 60 days or less. Those are the ones that performed better than anything else. The ones that performed the worst were the ones that said, I just want to sell without a real estate agent. So essentially, hey, I just don't want to pay a realtor commission. That's essentially what they're saying, right?
Right.
Those performed the worst. Inherited properties performed really well. However, those do have a longer close cycle than almost every other deal. So there's something to be said about that. And I brought that up intentionally for you. Now.
Yeah. Thank you, RJ.
I was like,
But,
yeah.
by the way.
But I mean, it's a known thing, you know. I mean, it's like, but
Yeah.
those also have normally juicier spreads. So there's a give and a take, right? I mean, when you're talking about a tired landlord with a vacant property, they're going to be a little bit savvier. So I have repeatedly been asked this question, RJ, it seems like you're just always giving the seller their asking price. People ask me this a lot. Shout out to Alex. He said number one closer right there.
What's up, Alex? I love it.
So
Not me.
yeah, right. Good one. I like that. The reason why that's the case is because I never actually want to give a number because these are inbound leads. And because they're inbound leads, I'm able to ask them, what price would you like? And then we go through a series of questions. And then I say, what is the best price you're willing to give me? And if it works, then we do the deal. If it doesn't, then it forces me to say, I can't do that. This is where I have to be. That was a huge difference from 2020 to 2023. And shout out to Speed Lead and Lead Zolo for coming up with these paper leads, businesses that really changed the game for people like us. And it really made it awesome this go around for me to be able to analyze deals and put our team in winning situations without essentially having to heavy negotiate and all of these types of things. So those are the leads that performed the best overall, man. Lead Zolo specifically vacant property, specifically with tired landlords that want to sell quickly. Those, I almost want to say, I don't know the exact number, but I think 47.9% of the leads that came in that way, I got a signed contract.
That's a lot.
That is an astronomical number. By it.
Well, I will say this also, not to like go back to like the initial discussion, but I would also say like, we just came back from San Antonio this past weekend, and RJ was a keynote speaker on his closing formula, like he formulated, and realistically speaking, that becoming formalized, I think I just made up a word. It came from that initial 50-50-50. And with these inbound leads that, we're talking about that are created this way, that formula looks so clean. It's so pristine. It's so easy to just close, right? That's why my business partner is known as the King Closer. That's why he continues to be able to do this, because he does it in a repeatable process. It's a formula over and over and over again. Not that he never deviates, right? So when it talks about like the leads themselves, like what we found from the 50-50-50, like this also created a huge inspiration in us to take these leads and open up the doors for the brokerage, right? Like there's a different closing formula when a lead does what we call transitioning there. So we're opening the door in that way, and I won't get into that. Where, I mean, obviously when we go creative, we deviate from that closing formula, right? Obviously, like whether that's sub-2, seller finance, whatever, novation, or listing, we're transitioning that formula over. And, we do have dialers where we do have data. They tend to perform a little bit differently, and they tend to start to deviate from that closing formula that, RJ was talking about. So I would say, with this 50-50-50, I wouldn't necessarily say all of the market and all the places that we showcased were, that type of lead. Like that's the biggest type. We have always had like a really high performance rate with, absentee owners, vacant, inheritance, people like that. We've always had really, really good closing ratios with those types of people looking for direct to seller investment properties. But we have amazing other deals that we do constantly. We just did, well, actually, I don't know, what would you call that deal we just did in Anchorage during the 50-50-50?
A sub-2 with a second lien on it from a private money lender, that there was a problem with how the sub-2 was filed. And so they approached us, and we essentially found a way to do a novation to get it sold. So it was already a creative finance deal with a sub-2 with essentially a seller finance on top of the sub-2. And then we came in and did a novation to get it closed, to get everybody recapped out of the deal. And when I say we, I mean, I was in the building while Cassie did all of that. She did all of it. And honestly, I talked to Pace Morby about this the other day. I said it was one of the most amazing transactions I've ever seen by one individual, because she essentially steered the ship from start to finish. And it, like, the story has to be told on that one, but it would take probably 8 hours to tell the entire story. But it was incredible what she did there.
Well, thank you so much. But I kind of like that was my point. Like, there's so many deals out there that like it's a different deal source. Like, yeah, we were kind of direct to seller, but they're investors. They were, like it's we have so many like great performing leads. And I will say this, from any of your lead sources, what I would want to tell the audience is continue to become a master of your craft. Continue to, that's why we do the 50-50-50, because no matter what your lead source is, ours clearly changed a lot from 2020, right? But because we've continued to master our craft, because we've continued to become, adding our knowledge on different solutions for people who are in different situations, because no two sellers with the same house, with the same, mortgage loan payoff, same location, whatever, they're no two are the same, right? And so be the solution no matter what, because we've been at this for like, what, 8, 9, 10 years.
Now, real quick,
So
one thing that massively changed, and shout out to you. We had a deal probably about 9-10 months ago. Very sticky situation, probate, lost brother, prison, like all kinds of stuff going on that we tried to work with you. We weren't able to get it to the finish line in time, but the reason why I bring this up is one of the biggest differences that enabled us to do more deals this go around as well is our network. The ability for me to pick up the phone and instantly be like, this is a person that can help me right now get this deal across the finish line was huge. So much so, I'll use an example. That bad boy right there is the 2023 Closers Olympics belt. During the Closers Olympics, I had a short sell lead, and everyone was like, close it as a sub 2. It was ARV 40,000. He owed 42,000, and it needed work way upside down on this deal. I instantly picked up the phone and called Matthew Potter, who is on Pardon the Disruption with us. He's the host of the show, short sell expert with on Steve Trang's team, and now Cassie's team. I picked up the phone and said, hey, man, I need a short sell packet sent to this seller right now. During the Closers Olympics, this is the kind of stuff that having a network. It's like, if I got a probate in Florida, I know exactly who I'm calling. I'm calling now, and it was over and over and over again. Same thing. I got a deal in Richmond, Virginia. Immediately called Chris Jefferson. He's my guy.
Yeah.
So that was a huge difference. And I have to say, a lot of that network has grown because we talk about what we're doing on social media, just like this right here.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Well, as a side note, RJ, what you and Al don't know is those sellers aren't gone.
In Florida?
Oh, they're back?
They have another property in North Carolina. One of the brothers died, and the one brother that was MIA and in jail, he's still on the lam. So I'm actually working with Beth right now because she got title pulled because all their properties were inherited, right? And so like I only bring this up to warn you. I'm trying to like be hands-on with it just because that other property and what had happened. But also like how you do something in those circumstances makes all the difference in the world. You know what I mean? And so I encourage, and it's so exciting to me, like the network that we've built. Like RJ, I feel like it started all the way back when he did his first podcast and just started bringing in people, and we just started going to masterminds and speaking at events and collaborating with people, collaborating with good people who are out there doing good work, who are masters of their crafts, who like consistently winning together in all the right ways, like knowing what you know, but bringing on people when you don't know, or you are not capable, and working with great people and building each other's business up. Like it takes you a long way. So I am trying to solve the, the issue with the brother. I'm trying to get an attorney involved on that one for you ahead of time before we even try to tackle the probate, to try to, find him and give notice and all that jazzy stuff.
And that, it's funny. I know exactly where I was that day. I was in the airport. I was in the airport, ready. I forgot where I was going. And I remember Cassie called me. But that's what's so great, isn't it, RJ? That like you got the direct line, you got an issue. That's the network that you're building. And we have that kind of relationship where you can call, text, email, and it's like, boom, what's going on? What's happening? And I just want to say, like, recap real quick. Formula, the fact that you were able to come up with that closing formulas are really what drives the consistency in what you do, right? In order to have that consistency, you have to build that formula. It's all the formula. You follow the formula, you will find success. And that's what you preach, RJ, with closing and the education. Like Cassie, in order for you to have figured out that sub 2 deal with the second lien and then the novation, you couldn't just all of a sudden go, oh yeah, I know what that is. That's years of stress and struggle of learning this stuff through application and people that you've networked.
Amen.
I mean, that's not just an easy thing to come up with, I mean, you knocked the socks off RJ when you came up with that one, and you got the whole thing done. You closed. And the other thing I want to say too is the expert part. You guys are right. With the experts, I remember I had Lee Carney on my show, and Lee sent over a ton of probates. And on the show, he was talking about the importance of building that network, of building experts, because you need an expert for this and this, someone in probate, someone in closing, someone in sub 2. And doing that today will help you on your deals in the future. And what you two are doing with that is exactly what you should be doing, what people should be learning from. I mean, I've seen deals fall apart because they didn't know, hey, we need someone for this. Hey, we need someone for that. You have to start building that network. And I love that you guys are doing that.
Absolutely. And it is, dude, it's fun. Like, it's fun doing business. I remember the moment that we had that probate in Florida, I was like, Al, I was so pumped because we were finally going to do a deal with you. And it's one of those things, like, we do so many deals across the country that there's times where it's like the moment that it gets triggered, it's like we had a couple of novations in Pennsylvania, and it was like, dude, we finally get to do a deal with Eric Brewer. Like, that's our boy. We got to do 2 deals with CJ. We got to do, deals with Leon G. Barnes, who I just met through Pardon the Disruption. It's like, we're doing a podcast together. He lives in Tampa, Florida, and he buys in Wichita, Kansas. And here I am in Fort Worth, Texas. And we're potentially doing a deal together. It's awesome, and it's fun doing business with your friends as well.
Absolutely. I agree.
Well, I was actually just talking to a long-time, I guess, connection, follower, part of our free community, I guess, out of Vegas. And, with us opening some of these doors, by partnering up with Potter and Trang, we're able to do even more business with more people. We're connecting our networks, and we're building people's lives and businesses through, these moves that we're making. So for me, it's I keep calling it an ecosystem, and I keep, telling RJ, there's like a long time where people, before we really started doing like the live stuff, they see that we're creating a brand, and RJ's doing the podcast, and he's doing the social media, and like there was people not just in our lives but in our businesses and in that social network, if you will, who criticized, who would, be not real haters, but they'd be like, oh, well, this is about RJ's ego, and they would say that I wasn't on there more because this was about RJ and his ego and things like that. And it's so funny now because we continue to raise the bar for expanding that network and using these social tools and using our brand and using our experience and showing people, what we're doing in business. And it's bringing such higher levels of those kinds of collaborations. It's bringing a ton of business to other people. It's bringing
Tyler.
It's stored in the beard, Tyler. That's epic. Sorry, I got distracted on that one. It's the ADD. People are dumb, but not everybody's dumb. Just those people that say stupid things and do stupid things. But like realistically, I would, if I had to do it all over again, I would probably just try to help him ramp it up more and replace myself more in the operations, so that we could, add my voice, add my experience, add my perspective, add the female perspective in there sooner, just so that we could ramp it all up. Because doing these things like the 50-50-50 and this networking and this collaborations, it's like I sit here and I think about all of these connections we have all over the country, and I'm going, we think out way more outside of the box. What a lot of people in our industry, I think, tend to do, and what RJ and I, God bless him, I would be just like the rest of them if I were out there on my own. He pushes us to get very uncomfortable. He pushes us to do things like the 50-50-50, like the podcast, even whenever he's uncomfortable.
Yes, think about
he
this.
doesn't want to put a camera in.
We're on a probate attorney's podcast. You want to talk about thinking outside the box? This dude travels across the country. Mm-hmm. He's a probate attorney. It's like, dude, I'm so freaking impressed by you and what you've been able to do with your brand. Because, it's one of those things where everybody in your profession just kind of doesn't really do this. Or they're not out there enough. Not in the real estate investing world, because I don't know about them. So,
well, it's an investor adjacent. I mean, it's brilliant, because I'm going to tell you right now, with what we're opening up on the agency side of things, like a lot of that aligns with our business as far as the leads, the deals, the referrals, but also the education space, the media space. Like, agencies so antiquated, and I'm sure that you saw that in law, right? And what you do. But what am I sitting here thinking? It's just like, who is everybody in my community and my network when they have a lead that comes by, and we're talking about hundreds, if not more, if you count, tertiary relationships. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands. It could be. Who are they going to look at us and say, like, who would you go to for a probate?
Right.
I mean, there's no question, right? And so you get interconnected into those networks by creating good relationships. It's just like with what RJ and I did in Alaska.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example. Who else do you know that invests in Alaska? Who buy and holds, fixes and flips, and, wholesales in Alaska? Who do you think immediately comes to mind? Well, RJ Bates III and Cassie, they do deals in Anchorage.
We did have to get our teeth kicked in a little bit in Alaska. I mean, there are some struggles with Alaska, so
you wanted to get a great learning experience. And by doing that and now explaining that deal, people are like, wow, this is who I'm going to if I need a JV on a deal, if I pick one up on a Google PPC or something like that. So yeah, brand awareness is absolutely everything. I mean, just constantly being out there. And thank you for the compliments, RJ and Cassie. I mean, thank you. I mean, it's a lot of work. I will say it's a lot of work, It's 9:45 Eastern over here. I've been working all day. Still, could go to 3 a.m. I tell people. So, but let me ask you this: what about the marketing side of things on the second go around? What did you see stick, with sellers more? Was it more the PPC end? Was it more direct mail, cold calling? Was it I just feel like the market right now is very up and down. I've seen it on the probate end up and down, but I sure have seen it just I don't know how to describe where it is marketing wise.
Yeah, I mean, for us, cold calling was pretty brutal. I was pretty disappointed with our results there. Still haven't really put my finger on why our cold call results weren't as good. I personally think it was a me thing. Looking back at it, I'm going to say the cold call leads needed to be nurtured more. And because I was spoiled with the PPC and the YouTube ads and the people coming directly to me from Instagram and TikTok that were like, yes, I need to sell and I want to sell right now. And I was closing them on that one call. I kind of neglected the cold call leads, right? Like, why are you so skittish? It's like, well, because they just found out your name like 3.5 minutes ago. That's why they're being skittish. Really, outside of that, man, those were our main channels. Lead Zolo, which is YouTube, PPC, and then cold calling, and then social media. No direct mail, no text, none of that. And ultimately what I've seen is I think there's a changing in the guard when it comes to marketing right now. We're so used, because we've had to do this in the past, that we had to do some form of significant outbound marketing. And there's so much inbound marketing now that really, when you boil it down, my inbound marketing costs, because they have gotten better at what they're doing, was cheaper on a cost per contract than what I could generate myself doing outbound. So, and I was very proud of my ability to generate outbound for very cheap, because I've always essentially been in charge of our marketing efforts. Essentially at this point, it's like, hey, we're still going to cold call. We have all this data, but the pay per lead model is really working right now. And so from that perspective, that's what we're pretty much all in on right now.
Well, and I'll kind of like tag on to the end of that as well, because I think that people need to understand another part of the big picture formula is like, it has a lot to do with where you spend your specific time as a business owner, and then building up that support underneath you. So you have to imagine when RJ and I go into a role like acquisitions or dispositions, when we put ourselves on the floor, we put ourselves in the deal. What that does is it takes time away from some of those other roles. And I'll just be honest with you. RJ does what we call the data management. Now, that might be marketing to some people, but it's a lot more than that, right? So he does deal with our callers, and with him doing acquisitions that many days, I feel like it skewed our KPIs in other ways, right? Because we were probably calling a lot more recycled data. We were probably not doing as many like fresh new campaigns as we would when we were not doing the 50-50-50 as well. So I don't think it's necessarily just about like, oh, we just got off of the call with our VA.
My contract sent to sign ratio was the lowest on cold call leads. That is what I am specifically referring to. I had a 52% contract sent to sign ratio, whereas on Lead Zolo, I was just south of 75% of the contracts that I sent got signed. That is a massive difference between the two. Speed to lead was lower volume, so that's PPC leads, lower volume, but it was in the 80s as far as contracts sent to sign. And TikTok and Instagram only had one contract that did not get signed.
Wow.
So it was in the 90s.
That's crazy.
Vastly different marketing efforts, right? Like vastly different. And like, I think the important thing to bring up here is that, like, depending on the volume that you do, because RJ and I were in a space at one point in time in our business, this is way prior to the 50-50-50 days, even the first one, that, we were one trick ponies. We were like no dollar marketing company. We were like, and I won't get into too much of the weeds on that, but when we were inevitably forced to have to pivot, was a very, very difficult time. And we took a major downturn, I guess, in our business. And we were actually got into a position where we knew how to do, other things. It's not like we didn't know how to, fix and flip. So we got fix and flip heavy at that time. And we probably did that without, taking some needed time to business plan better. We were very reactive at that point in our business because we were kind of one-trick ponies when it came to how we acquired our deals, where our data came or where our leads came from. So where our marketing efforts were. And I say all of that to say, it's not that you can't just do one form of this marketing. But like we're diverse in it, and we have those different performance rates and costs per lead. And there's a reason that we still do all of them. So that might not be something somebody can jump into and do on day one, but it is something that I encourage people to build, because it builds like security, the ability to pivot in your business when you get into these crazy markets. I mean, for us, the first crazy markets we've experienced in our careers started when COVID hit. I'm not allowed to say that word on
You're
a
allowed
podcast,
to say COVID.
but yeah, when that hit, that was like a huge difference. Thank God. And even then, I feel like our business is so much more secure and stable now. And it took a lot of years to feel that way, I think. But these different forms of marketing, is interesting, because sometimes people will be like, well, I do bandit signs and they work, and I do mailers and they work. And like, it's, different markets, different businesses, different, yeah, they all will work, but it's like, what are you building consistently? Can you pivot? And, what kind of volume are you trying to do? What kind of business are you building? But we have great, there's probably nobody at any level with any style of business that I wouldn't recommend. I mean, obviously people aren't going to go build a TikTok following up overnight, so they're probably not going to get those, hello, this is RJ.
Social media, because that's the one that you can grow overnight. You should have said Instagram, okay? Yeah, TikTok, you can go viral overnight and grow one.
You technically can.
Yeah,
but you understand my point. Thank you. Or he's like, actually, you should do TikTok if you're new. But yeah, I think that, there's so many options out there for people at any level, and none of the ones that we currently use are ones I would.
Yeah, and just going back to the way that RJ, you were able to just spit out the facts and the percentages. Your data. And I think a lot of people, like I was talking about that with Tyler on the other episode last week, which was being able to track your data, track like what's really working on what marketing platform you're using. I know a lot of people in land love direct mail because they have a high percentage of contract ratio with direct mail. But that may not be the same with single family. That may not be the same with multifamily, going off market. But you right away were like, we didn't get we got one contract not signed on social media, right? And that's like huge, right? I mean, you should put all your efforts into that, right? But like you said, at the same time, diversify, because you never know if all of a sudden that channel all of a sudden dies, you can pivot to something else. So that's great advice on the marketing side. I really think that's huge. What about the buy box? Like, did the type of buyers change this go around versus last time?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we have a massive tool available to us that we didn't have in 2020 called Investor Lift. That makes a major difference. Also, we have 3 years experience of being nationwide, right? So 2020 was like we're doing all 50 states. So now when we go get a deal in a place like Montana, we got 2 contracts in Montana. We had a known buyer in Montana that we immediately sent it to, and he said, yeah, I'll take them. Whereas in 2020, when we got a deal in Montana, it was like, can we do deals in Montana? Are there buyers in Montana? So that was a huge difference.
Yeah.
As far as the buy box goes, I mean, listen, it's tightened up. 2021 was pretty much the peak of wholesaling, right? I mean, you pretty much get anything under contract and there was going to be a buyer. This was a little bit of a tighter buy box across the board. But I will say I'm super proud of my team. 65% of the contracts signed made it to close. That's above nationwide average. If you eliminate the JV deals and you only talk about our direct to seller, we had about 15 JV deals that came from people watching and saying, hey, RJ, will you dispo this? We included those in our KPIs. If you eliminate the JV deals, 72% direct to seller contracts made it to close. Super proud of our team. That's an astronomical number. Super proud of Cassi. I will also say it's not all because of the acquisitions. Not all of those were acquired correctly. We are buying these sight unseen. We have to go out and do recon on the property and then reevaluate based off of the pictures and the condition and everything that was told to us. Our team did a massive job of having very candid conversations with sellers about, hey, and it helps. All the conversations were recorded. So we would go back. We have a big screen TV in our office right there on the floor. We would pull it up and put my conversation on the TV, and we'd listen to the 15-minute conversation. We'd be like, they said the roof was new. There's a hole in the roof. So then we would go back and we would have the candid conversation and say, hey, we can't do this at X price because you said the roof was new. We have to renegotiate the price. They did a great job of that. So that really helped as far as getting as many contracts as we did to the closing table. So really, really proud of the team on the backside of that because I created a lot of chaos. Quite frankly, we haven't said the number yet. It was 124 contracts in those 50 days. Which averages out to, I think, 2.48 contracts a day. That's a lot of chaos to be created. I mean, you're talking about over 10 contracts a week for the team to do recon on, open up title, make sure we are working with the correct title companies, and then do dispositions on that. It was a lot of chaos, and they did a great job.
So two things that I'm thinking of. The title company part. I mean, that's everything.
Yeah.
If you're not working with the right title company that understands the investor-friendly side of things or gets creative or is willing to bend or has a really good connection with their underwriter, because a lot of title companies, they just read the forms and then they're just like, we need this and this. It's like, no. You're the agent and there's just an insurance company. And I'm even in some emails, I'm like, please send this to your underwriting counsel. And they're like, yes, we'll forward. I'm like, this is the whole point of having that kind of team. So like, I'm sure you guys have realized which ones are the right title companies right off the bat when they're either doing everything for you or they're getting you the right forms. How are you finding that right title company?
Oh, Lord Jesus. We aren't always. And that's just me being a fully transparent and wanting to encourage people. Like, honestly, a lot of like what our students will ask us like on a daily basis in our threads and our community and everything like that. What title company should I use in this, in this location? And it's like, I can honestly say through the years, we have utilized nationwide title companies. We've utilized some really great companies that are in like multiple states. But legitimately, like, I feel like number one, Investor Lift is working on their game. And I mean, if y'all don't know what Investor Lift is, I mean, please get connected with us. We will show you the ropes, direct you to some YouTube channels, because I'm letting you know it's one of the best relationships we've formed. And we started out as simply a customer, which is usually how we end up with these tight-knit relationships. But they're bringing out their game, and that like that is a part of like that nationwide connection and database that they're building, and other investors are able to leave user experiences. So you have other people doing volume in these locations that are recommending that date and like updating that database, like just like they do with the buyers. And so long story short, sometimes we get them from there. Sometimes they're from our Rolodex through, because before we started in 2020, we had done deals in like 26 states, right? And look, we still run into this is not the right title company. We still run into that.
It's not only that,
especially because
there was times during these 50 days where, Al, you got to understand, I'm live just like this, the lights, the mic, the everything. I'm on the phone, but as much as I pay attention and I'm obsessed with the KPIs, I'm obsessed with everything that's going on. Like, this is game time. I got 4 monitors. One monitor is dedicated to just my emails. So I'm checking the emails, and one of my emails is strictly just all of the transactions. So I'm seeing these emails coming through from title companies and from our transaction coordinator, and I'm seeing what's going on. I can tell you there was probably 10 times during the 50 days where Cassie said, I'm coming in, RJ, take your break. I walk out, I shut the door, and I'm like, what title company are we using in Detroit? And they go, oh, well, I'm not going to say their name, but one that we've done plenty of transactions with that I love. And I'm like, what happened?
That's exactly where I was going. Like sometimes
it was amazing. But transaction number 13, they were just like, we're going to shit the bed on this one. Sorry.
I hope you're allowed to cuss on this show, Al.
We've had some interesting
ones. Leave
them
out when it's not live.
It sucks when that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it breaks my heart because it's like I am very adamant about this at this point. I've done enough transactions where I feel like I have the authority to say this. There is a runway to the amount of transactions you can do with a certain title company. But for whatever reason, familiarity breeds contempt or something. They see how many fucking wires they send you, assignment fees, and they get salty or something, man. Because all of a sudden we hit I'm like, why are you sending me these nasty emails like we're not on the same team? You forgot what team you're on. You're on Team Titanium. I don't understand what's happening right now. And that's where I feel like you kind of have to have that Rolodex. Like Investor Lift is making grounds there where you can rotate. But somebody said this the other day. I can't remember what the topic was. Oh, it was today on my podcast. I'm sorry. I was interviewing Ryan Roddy, who is a rehab consultant. So he essentially does virtual project management. And I asked him, how do you handle when bad contractors do something on one of your projects? And he goes, if you've only got one contractor, you're in trouble. And it's the same thing here. If you're a wholesaler and you've only got one title company in Florida, well, guess what? You're going to have a couple of deals with them, and all of a sudden you're going to be like, what is happening? Because they're running a small business just like us. And Al, you know this. Dude, we had Cassie, how many deals was it here in Texas? Were there 4 or 5? The title company went out of business.
Really?
Dude, we have a title story.
In the middle of the transactions, bro. Just
shut down.
Phones are off. We had a deal where the buyer put $25,000 earnest money down, and their emails are bouncing. Their phones are shut off. What do you tell your buyer?
They had to be so pissed.
Bro, pissed. They were talking about, we're getting the demands letters written to you, Titanium Investments. You told us to use this title company. Wow. I'm not going to get sued.
Obviously, we're not worried about it and it's resolved. But I mean, like that was the first. That was the first this year is working with a title company who got got shut down. They
Yeah.
didn't just close the doors. They
Yeah.
got
And like you
shut
said,
down.
this is why you have to have the Rolodex. Like you have to start building, going back to the education and the networking and like meeting all these different people and, you know, talking with them and trying to understand, like, are we a good fit? Like, would this be a good fit with someone, you know, on a deal? So build those relationships. You know, I got to ask this final question before we all go, which is, what state surprised you the most out of the 50 deals in 50 days in 50 states?
I have to say, man, it jumped right out of the gates, and it's not a state we had done a lot of deals in, but it was Virginia. I think we ended up with, out of the 124 deals, I think we ended up with 5 in Virginia. They all made it to closing. Well, pending, we still have one. It's sold. We just got to get it to the finish line and get the wire sent. But that one really was surprising. Outside of that, I mean, the shocking on the opposite side was some states that have done really well for us. And I'll give 3 specifics. And I don't know if it's an indication of our different lead sources or if it's an indication of what's happening in the market.
Or it could be an indication that we know better.
No. I'm going to talk about states that we've done a lot of transactions in that we didn't do a whole lot this time. Ohio, Indiana, and Missouri. Those are.
I'm not thoroughly surprised by Missouri because I feel like I completely agree with you about Ohio and Indiana. They surprised me, but I feel like our lead source change, we ended up getting, like, we were less targeted in Ohio. I was born in Ohio. I moved to Texas and became a Texan when I was 11, so I'm a Texahian. I don't know. But like I feel like Ohio as a whole, as a state, like, is, if you are not as targeted, you get some of these really like not so great markets in Ohio. And I think that was an indicator. And I feel like Indiana can kind of be the same way. Missouri, I am, and I'm not surprised, just because I think a lot of our deals were like a very specific with how we approached Missouri before. We've owned a lot of properties in Missouri. And I just think that it's really interesting. And I think that has to do with the lead source. So that's something to consider, you know, how you market and things like that, and how you set your marketing up, like where your leads come from, I think really matters. So for us, going back into like, what are we going to do? What crazy thing are RJ and Cassie going to do next? RJ and I have talked about being very intentional and very proactive coming out of this 50-50-50, and getting a lot more targeted, with, so like, I guess if you take it like the first 50-50-50, it was very targeted, very outbound, right? Now we've done inbound, a little bit less targeted, right? And so now I think whatever we do next, we're very proactive, very targeted, but it's inbound. And like, that's very exciting for us because it's going to be maximizing the efficiency of our leads. And it's really going to tell us a lot about these different markets, because you have to just think about it, like just in our state alone. I mean, you could say Texas numbers on the first one, the second one. I mean, Texas is the size of like four countries in Europe.
One last thing I'll add on this. I know we need to go out, but out of the 124 contracts, 18 of them were in Texas. So top producing state, Texas. Not because we're here. Only one deal was in DFW. Okay. So everywhere else. Worst performing states on the inbound leads. Okay. So the amount of states that we got the most leads and the least amount of deals. This was very shocking to me. Number 1, California. Okay. California sucks. It will always suck. All right. At any point in time, California wants to leave the United States, I will gladly welcome it. Okay. So
I like
people
some
in
things in
California that we like
California,
can
just
move to
not real
another state
estate.
that we like. Arizona, love Arizona. They can just move right over there. Okay. Second, New York. Okay. Still not surprising. The third, the most surprising of all of them, Florida.
Really?
Do you know why?
Florida was so good for us during the first round. That was my
You know
market
why?
that I was
Why?
sad about.
We got more leads there from older people saying, I'd love to sell my house without a realtor. That's what they just wanted. Hey, I want full market. I want 500 grand and I don't want to pay 6% commission. That's the exact conversation we had.
But my house
got
was
deals
distressed.
there, but it was the ones that were
Yeah.
distressed. See, the difference is in a lot of the other states, we were getting the highly distressed sellers. There, we just got a wave of, you want to give me above retail?
Yeah.
I'll sell. So shocking results, man, but very informative. And as you can tell, I'm a little bit obsessed with these KPIs because it matters to me. Like I have a choice of which leads I want to call. So I need to know these things as I'm going along. So.
Well, I also think, going back to cap that entire statement, I think that we still have some, I know that this sounds insane, but we still have some work to do to, complete the picture, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, again, like we're talking about states. We're not even talking about markets. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you have to take it as like a viewer with a certain grain of salt that we're talking about whole entire states here.
That grain of salt is that the entire state of
interesting.
California sucks.
RG's on it.
There's not one city in the state of California that's good for us. Just saying.
Bro, our least favorite from the first one.
Still
was
Utah. We just don't talk about that place. That place hates me.
Stinks.
It's the one place we haven't successfully done a deal, Al.
Really? Not at all.
We've got one under
I'm
contract,
pretty sure
though.
that way back when Brigham Young stood there and said, and in the 2020, you will all hate Robert John Bates III when he tries to buy your house. And it just spread out throughout Utah.
They all know now.
They all know.
Well,
they've got a ban on Bates.
Cassie, you mentioned the focus on markets. Like you guys were going states, like the focus on markets. And I remember having a conversation, I don't know, a couple weeks ago with one investor. And they were talking about finding multifamily or finding commercial, and they were going to like start hitting like every commercial property. I'm like, is that really the right way? I mean, narrow that data, narrow the list, narrow the areas that you really want to go after. And then your list isn't that long. And then you can just really hammer those areas. So like, if you want to focus on commercial in one area, now you have a more structured, intentional list versus just hitting it, throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. So I could see like on the next go around how you probably implement that even more to see if there's more strategy with the inbound, because that's going to be a great challenge for y'all on, RJ, you'll crush it all day on the outbound, but on the inbound, finding ways to go into specific markets and get even more leads and convert the percentages that you're referencing is going to be massive. So that's going to be huge. I just want to say, I love this. I feel like we could do this all night with you guys. I mean, the comment section has just been blowing up all night. Like if I got to the comments, we'd be here for 3 hours. I mean, everybody loves you guys and what you're doing. So many different people from the groups. I saw Alex's comment and Tyler's in here, and it's just great seeing that so many people are paying attention to Titanium and RJ and Cassie and what y'all are doing and your journey out there. And that's just fantastic. So I've absolutely loved talking to you guys tonight. I love meeting you the first time in Palm Beach, and I get to see you guys at Family Mastermind next week, which is like a couple days now. It's going to be crazy. So thank you both for taking the time out of your day to come on here, share the 50-50-50 and your experience the second go around. And I hope you guys do it again. And I'm sure it looks like RG's like ready to do it again. And 2 weeks from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I think we're both wanting to do it, but honestly, we made a commitment to ourselves to take a little bit more time to like business plan it this go round and like try some different things and see the kind of results that we can garner from that so that we can share that with our people. So we're really excited. We love doing this. We love being on stuff like this and talking to you and getting to go to things like Family Mastermind. It's so exciting for us, and it's just another thing. Like I encourage everybody to no matter what level, get those things and get in the right rooms with the right people. Don't be on an island. Like continue to pour into yourselves and the media game, you know what I mean? So we're really grateful that we got into this age. When we first started in real estate, there wasn't podcasts and social media communities or any of this stuff. And Lord have mercy, the world is at your fingertips now almost. So we're really excited to see what the future brings with this kind of stuff, and I'm really grateful to be able to
thank you
be on
both.
your show tonight.
So my final thoughts are shout out to
Wait, I got to do the whole segment.
you gotta do all the segment.
He has actual final thoughts. It's a
RJ,
formula,
whole thing.
RJ.
The execution has to be perfect.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so as I do at the end of my show, I do a segment called Final Words, Final Thoughts. And it can be anything from one word to a 5-minute rant. We've heard it all. So as I do final words, final thoughts, RJ and Cassie.
Cassie, you go first.
So, final words, final thoughts. Always, always continue your education. That is like my biggest thing. Don't ever, ever, ever stop being a better version of your business and yourself as a leader, even if you're only leading yourself. Become a master of your craft. Get in the right rooms. Talk to the people who know how to do things that you don't know how to do yet. And collaborate with the people that you don't want to do what they do. For example, probates.
There you go.
I feel so empowered by this final words, final thoughts. I mean, honestly, he said 5-minute rant, and I feel like I should go on a full-on podcast filibuster over here. Like, I might just start talking and not stop, because why? We're on the Al Nicoletti Show. What crazy ass probate attorney podcast into like the middle of the night? Like he starts on Wednesday and ends on Thursday. Like, what is wrong with this guy? Listen, if you love Al's beard, okay, the bearded Al, I need everyone to drop hashtag bearded Al so he keeps the freaking beard. The dude, like, he showed up today's episode looking like a freaking man, all right? I loved it. I was like, dude, you look so freaking good. Like, I got a man crush on you right now. Keep the beard, all right?
I will.
That's what I'm saying. And then final thoughts. This formula we talked about, I'm going to give a 1-minute spiel on what the formula is, okay? You're going to start with no, okay? Why? Because it takes, on average, a bunch of no's to get to the yes, right? But the no's are coming from us, not from the sellers. You start with no, all right? Remember, it's not about us. It's about them. Become a machine. Say the same things the same way every time. You've seen the reels. Hello, this is RJ. Over and over and over again. Saw you went to my website. You still looking to sell that property? We say it the same way. What you got going on with that property? All right? So the next thing is ask them what their asking price is. You'll be shocked. If you ask them early on, they'll just give it to you, okay? Then ask open-ended questions. What do you have going on with that property? They'll tell you the most important thing to them. They'll tell you their pain and their motivation. So you ask an open-ended question. You keep asking open-ended questions unless you've realized it's not a good fit for you. So you tell them no. If you tell them no and they're really motivated, guess what's going to come out? Their motivation. If they've already told you their motivation and it's a deal, it's your job at this point in time to avoid dumbassery. Don't get in the way. Majority of the time, this is where we screw things up because you think you're a freaking good closer and you're not. Just shut up and listen and ask more questions. They'll tell you a little bit more about their situation. Then, if you're not ready yet, have some awkward silence. Awkward silence is always good. People can't handle it. If you can handle it, they're going to tell you more about their situation. So, again, a lot of not talking, a lot of listening, right? Build rapport at the end. Reverse rapport. They've told you a lot about their situation. Talk with empathy. Repeat what they've said. Make sure that you let them know that you listen to them. And then the closing line is, it's a one-shot kill shot, baby, just like Eminem. All right? You ready for it? Here it goes. If I cover all of the closing costs and there's no realtor commissions, what's the best price you could do for me? On average, they price drop themselves 10 to 20%. You ask them, what is their email, and you send them the contract. That's the formula.
Love it. I love it. He went through it.
There it is.
I mean, right at the end. The best closing right there.
They love the beard, bro.
And if you
wow, look at this. Yeah, the beard. Mike, the beard. Bearded out. I love it. Thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for just bringing the energy and bringing the knowledge and just doing what you guys do. Like, it's just being authentic and just driving it home to explain your experiences and your journey to others. I think it's irreplaceable. This is what we need in our industry. We have to have this. So,
do you know what can only make this podcast better? The fact that David Olds is listening to us right now.
Let's go, David. What's happening, man? I love it.
David, we're just over here giving 11 out of 10, baby. That's what we're doing, David Olds.
I love it. And it's great that we get people like that watching. You know, David watching and Tyler Austin watching. I mean, it's great. I love it. So yeah, guys, hey, I can't wait to see you at Family Mastermind. It's going to be a blast. That week's going to be a blur when it's all over, and it's going to be crazy. So looking forward to it, and I can't wait to connect and see you guys there.
Absolutely, man.
Absolutely. We're very excited, and I'm sure we can pick up the crumbs from this episode. We'll probably be like, oh, let's film about this. Let's film about that. I love that we recorded this right before Family. So
that was the last part of my filibuster. I forgot to ask. In 2018, 2018, okay? I was standing on stage at Wholesaling, okay? And I'm speaking, and I'm doing Q&A, and the final person that came up was Steve Trang, and he said, will you be on my podcast? And I loved it. And so now I'm going to do it to you. Al, will you be a guest on my podcast?
Yes, RJ. I'm there all day.
I knew you would say yes to me tonight.
I'm in.
It was the beard.
Man Crush Wednesday between RJ and Al. It's
I'm
all
going to keep growing it out. Baby. I love it. Love it, guys. Thanks so much for being on. Thank you for coming on. It was a blast.
Thanks, man.
Thanks so much for having us, Alan. We look forward to seeing you.
I know, crazy. Just a few days. I can't wait. See you guys there. Have a good one. All right, everybody. Another episode, live episode in the books. I mean, RJ Bates and Cassi DeHaas, they really know their stuff when it comes to doing deals all across the country. And on their second go around of doing 50 deals in 50 states in 50 days and learning so much about not just the market, not just the marketing, not just sellers and the buy box, but also themselves, also their team, also learning the training and learning about what it means to be uncomfortable and putting yourselves in different positions, learning about the title companies. And I love the fact of how they really learned this go around about putting the right experts in place and also building your network and the importance of education. And of course, RJ, he has that formula to closing. When you implement all these things in your business is when you really can grow and you can scale and you just have greater success when you stick with these things. And I love the principles that they talked about on the show. And if you missed any of it, go back to the beginning of the show and watch this, because there's so many different principles along the way that you can learn if you do something like this, if you kind of do a quick boot camp with your team, start learning about your team members, start learning about yourself. I mean, there's so many things that you can learn about yourself every day. I'm in the office doing things with the team. I'm learning more things about how we operate, how I operate. So it's very important to do those kinds of things. And I got to say, love the fan interaction tonight. I mean, this is a 5-star fan interaction right now. I mean, there's so many people from the group, from Tyler commenting. I love it. I love that Tyler's watching, and all the people from the group on pairing on the page with RJ and Cassie, and then Alex Ottawell's watching. It loves the bearded out. Love it, Mike. We're gonna be joking about that afterwards. And then, just different people. I love the fan interaction. So, and David, oh my God, the great David Olds, love it. Thanks for watching, man. And just want to say, another episode in the books. And next week, we got, so just so you know what's coming up, we got 2 pre-recorded episodes coming up in the next 2 weeks. I got Tim Horvath coming up next week, and the week after we have Gonzalo Corzo. You don't want to miss that sit down, and you don't want to miss Tim's sit down. Huge episodes, and we will be back live the week after. I think that's October 11th. We will be back live after, but these are 2 sit down interviews that you don't want to miss and you want to stay tuned for. And if you want to check out anything else on the Al Nicoletti Show, scan the QR code. You'll find all the things on the link tree on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, Audible, iTunes, every platform now that the show is on. And of course, you can see all the content on quiet titles, probates, partitions, and all that stuff on Instagram, Facebook, and everywhere. Another night on the Al Nicoletti Show. Had a blast. RJ and Cassie dropped the gems. I'm so happy I had them on. I'll see you all next week. Enjoy the episodes while I'm out traveling. Have a great night, everybody. See you soon. Take care.